The implications of the bailouts were that there was no rule of law.
Right.
HSBC admitted to perpetrating all these crimes, and nobody gets prosecuted. Nobody goes to jail.
Right.
Because there is a doctrine in the U.S. Attorney's Manual called collateral consequences. And if we prosecute HSBC, it'll be Chicken Little. The sky will fall, and the life as we know it will end. And that's where we are today. That is where all of this stuff with the pandemic is coming from.
Right. The pandemic stimulus is just another round of bailouts.
Right.
It is such a disadvantage when one group of people can print money out of thin air.
Yes.
So they have as much money as they want at a zero cost of capital.
And lend it out at interest.
Right. And lend it out at interest while we're paying 15.99% on average on our credit cards.
Right.
But clearly we're in a model that I would describe as not sustainable. And it's hugely destructive of productivity because the unproductive have found a way to increasingly subsidize them at the cost of everybody else.
Right. The ability of people to lend money out at interest is one problem. There's a second and maybe even more significant problem is that when you have debt-based money, the money creators have at their leisure the ability to contract the money supply at will and cause depressions.
Yeah, it caused fake scarcity.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that happened in 1920. It happened in 1929. That's what's going on now.
I agree with you. The more history we have on the monetary history, the more you can see this pattern over time.
Yes.
Yes.
That's the key thing, is being able to detect patterns by looking over time. Unfortunately, it's getting harder and harder to find books about the Depression and about 1920 or whatever than it was before. Google is not a friendly organization to history.
Right.
In a lot of ways, I think it's no, I'm serious.
No, they're the neuralizer.
When you say that $21 trillion is missing, it's not that they want that money because they have the ability to print the money. It's
Right.
that they don't want you to have that money.
Right.
It's really a power grab. It's just dressed up in dollars.
Absolutely.
If you look at the history of depressions, the 1920 depression was about crushing farmers. The 29 depression, also intentionally created, was about crushing industrialists. And this one is about crushing small business and buying up businesses for pennies on the dollars. That's what's going on.
Right. In the Democratic states especially, they've rigged the unemployment compensation so it's approximately 30% more on average than what people were making at work. So they won't want to go back to work. And then they're planning on rolling that in July and then rolling it again in October in front of the election. And then after the election, if the Democrats can win, they're planning on converting it to a universal basic income.
Yeah, I would. Yeah.
If you look at all the things they've done to destroy small business, it's the last attack on small business and creating complete dependency.
It's okay to have more money and print a sea of money as long as you have the productivity to back it up. You have the business output. But if people are sitting at home twiddling their thumbs and they're on Twitter all day and on Facebook and watching YouTube videos, they're not working, they're not producing anything. We're going to see huge inflation if this nonsense continues.
Right. They created this Federal Accounting Standards Advisory Board Statement 56, which basically says, long and short, we can keep secret books. There's no sovereignty, and now they're basically saying, look, we can do whatever we want. We don't have to justify anything to you or tell you anything about what we're doing.
Right.
I've always said I could have told Epstein he was a dead man as soon as they adopted FASB 56, because what it means is they can launder whatever they want, however they want.
Right.
There's another aspect to this which has become more and more important. The federal government doesn't have financial sovereignty, but it also doesn't have information sovereignty. So the president can't have a private conversation with the Prime Minister of Australia without 17 intelligence agencies listening and leaking it all to the Washington Post.
Right.
So you don't have information sovereignty. And because I have to say the Five Eyes system has sort of changed a little bit the balance of power between JP Morgan Chase and the, AT&T.
Right.
So there's a definite sort of telco defense contractor aspect to power, and then there's the central bank power.
Right.
But they don't have information sovereignty, and they don't have financial sovereignty. And we just had the Pentagon admit that 3 UFO videos are real, And so now they're admitting that they don't even control the airspace.
The sovereignty issue is a real issue because once you had the collateral consequences doctrine,
Right.
the collateral consequences is the formal recognition that certain banks have criminal immunity. And if you
Right.
have criminal immunity, you are de facto the sovereign, right?
Right. Okay, so global GDP, JP Morgan Chase says in the second quarter down 40% for
Whoa.
US. Yeah, so Goldman came out and said down 25%, then JP Morgan said down 40%. We just saw a survey, I think by the Chamber of Commerce, saying 2/3 of business say if this keeps up for 6 months, they're gone. So 6 months from now, we could have 1/3 of the small businesses that were existing when it started. They're shutting down small business and then using their ability to listen to everybody on Zoom globally to sort of suck everything up into FANG and the big monopolies. I mean, basically, the Department of Justice has become a monopoly creator. What they
Yeah,
do is they
that's
liquidate
correct.
small business and foreign businesses into monopolies.
That's being spot on. Yes.
And part of what we're watching is the materialist economy that makes no sense, is constantly on the lookout for more subsidy to keep itself going because it makes no sense. And this is their last desperate attempt to lock everything up so they can keep themselves going. I don't think it's going to work, but, a couple billion people could die in the process of getting it to fail.
Boy, that's a dark possibility, but it is a possibility nonetheless. I'm sorry to say. It's hard. I got to be honest. There are days where it's hard to see a good outcome from all of this.
I'm still an optimist because when I created Hamilton, I left the Bush administration. I said, these guys are going to get a hold of the technology and kill us all. We need another plan. So I went to work to figure out how, bottom up, you could create wealth and productivity bottom up in communities, basically an optimization of total equity in place. And what I discovered is the potential for economic wealth, if we were capable of civilization, is just fantastic.
That's exactly right. And one of the things
Right.
about the 21 trillion and 29 trillion missing is that's really a testament to that they could steal all this money because the system is so productive.
Isn't it incredible?
In its innate form. If you left it
So-
alone, the wealth would be just mind-boggling.
Right.